Ekev, v'haya Ekev tishma'un. These words are powerful words, powerful ideas that can easily be just read very quickly. Vaya, and it will be, or it was so, Ekev tishma'un. The word Ekev, Rashi tells us, comes from the word heal. And he's teaching you a profound lesson. He's saying, just like Moses is asking us in this verse to respond to the small nuances within our Jewish faith, right? Think of the small things as just as important as the big things. And that often in life, we trample on the small things and we kind of ignore, we do the big things and we ignore the small things. And therefore he's pointing out this idea of Haya Ekev Tishma'un. It's when you think of the small things, like on the bottom of the heel, the things that we trample on, that's where you want to go ahead and put your investment. That's where you want to put your money. That's where you want to put your time. The small things matter. Now, interestingly, the word Ekev, another way of understanding it, is the word Ekev itself means like ikvut de Mashiach, like the end of times. That if you are going to listen anyway, because within time, everything that we do will be forced upon us because this is the will of God. So you have one understanding is vaya Ekev tishma'un, is that the Ekev means that the small things that I trample on, don't trample on those small things. Make sure that you are invested in the small things like you are in the big things. And the second thing that Moses is telling you is that no, that Ekev means at the end of time, you're going to be forced to go ahead and to accept these ideas. So listen to them now when you could actually express your free will, your free choice, and not be put into a position where you are no longer, or where you are unable to really make the choice to connect to God and his commands. So that's one way of understanding it, but there's more. But wait, there's more. V'haya, the word v'haya, the Midrash tells us, is about doing things besimcha, right? Well, what does that mean? What does it mean to do things with happiness? V'haya Ekev tishma'un. If you're going to listen to God, then make sure you're happy about the small things. Now, I'm going to share you probably one of the most important ideas about relationships you have ever heard. Okay, so pay attention. The idea goes like this. In relationships, we often make the mistake in thinking that it's the big things that matter most. It's not. It's the small things that matter most. The things that are meaningful come from the small acts of kindness that we do, not from the big things. It's so easy. Okay, fine. Here's a bouquet of roses. Here is a massive diamond. Here's this great vacation. And that's where we want to build. And that's where we want to create this level of connectivity. But in reality, that's not what Moses is telling you. If you want to build a relationship, my friends, it's the small things that matter most, but not just the small things that matter most. It's how you respond to those small things. You see, your spouse asks you to do something. She says, do me a favor, can you please move that box, or please take out the garbage? And you could easily say, I had a long day today. It was really hard. I'm tired. I'm exhausted. I have every excuse, and every one of those reasons that you give are valid 100% reasons not to do whatever it is that was requested of you. But if you're someone who sees small moments in time as investment opportunities, a place where you could build equity, if you will, in a relationship, then do that b'simcha. You respond with, I'm so tired but I love you and I'll do it anyway. Boom. You just cha-ching, you just go ahead and you cashed in, you invested in that relationship in a major way. But that's not what we do often. We go into our relationships and we get too familiar and too comfortable, and then we just we want to be lazy. But that's a mistake. The whole concept of building a relationship is getting the relationship to move into a place of depth and meaning. So how do we get there? So I'm going to give you the steps right now and teach you how to get there. Okay, you go ahead and you want to build a relationship. And this is true with any relationship. This is a relationship with God. This is a relationship with a human being. And this is a relationship with the self. Where do you start? How do you get there? So you first start with the small things, not the big things. Every relationship focuses on the details. Think about it. When you're dating someone, what do? You try to work and figuring out how those big things, the small things work. And through the small things, you get to bigger and bigger and better. But if you're building a relationship with a kid for a moment, okay, and you wake up on a Saturday morning, and you're like, oof, I got to go to bed. Knesset, oof, it's so long. Oof, the rabbi's speech, it's just unbearable. Oof, this guy's going to be in synagogue again. You start going all your oofs, 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 and you're complaining. You know what happens to that kid? Your son, daughter who watch you, you know what they say? Whoa, mom, dad, they must have real bad nightmares going to synagogue. I ain't going. They're not going to go, period. But if you, my friends, are in a place where you turn your inward emotion to love and you wake up and you say, what an amazing opportunity today I have. Today I could go ahead and I could serve God with such depth and love. You dance before you go to synagogue. I promise you, your kids are going to want to go to synagogue with you. That's what you want to know, which parent wins the love of their children and the respect of their children. Listen carefully, my friends. The one who is the happiest wins. The one who is always besimcha wins. So if you're always complaining because, Rabbi, I had such a hard day, I'm tired, or I woke up today on the wrong side of the bed, I'm not feeling it, my emotions dictate my reality, that kind of thinking is a mistake. Do not allow yourselves to be swayed by the way you feel. You actually have the power of completely changing the way in which you respond to your reality. You don't have to be defined by your emotions. You could choose to be more. If you're feeling unhappy, very simple. Smile, stand up, don't slouch, go out for a big walk, do some push-ups. There's no way you're going to remain depressed. There's no way you're going to remain unhappy. The more you're able to take command of your emotions, the more simcha you'll have in your life. Now, if you love the small details in that relationship, tishma'un, you'll be heard. Not only will you be heard, but God will hear what you're doing. You see, the relations we build are very much tied to our desire to love those things. Let's just go over again. We've heard this before. The word ahava in Hebrew, the word love, means or comes from the root word hav, which means to give. And therefore, my friends, the more you give, the more you love. Ready? Who loves you more than anyone else in the world? Take a minute to think about it. No, not me. I'll tell you who does. Your
parents.
Your parents. Very good, right? Why do your parents love you more than anyone else in the world? Because your parents have given to you more than anyone else in the world.
Your mom more than your dad. Your mom.
What's that? Yes, and I would argue, Marie, your mom more than your dad, because mothers give way more than their fathers. They're carrying, they're laboring.
Yeah.
They're saying there's so much more. So I would say yes, the person that loves you more than anyone else in the world is a mom. Now, ready? This is the question. That was like the setup. Who's in control of the relationship between parent and child? Again, who is in control of the relationship between parent and child? Are the children in control or are the parents in control? It's a trick question. Okay.
Parents.
Nope.
Child.
The child's in control. Why is the child in control? The child is in control because the child loves less. Ready? This is a very deep yesod, very deep idea. In a relationship, the person who loves less is the one who is in control. Or I could say it the other way. The one who loves more is less in control. And therefore, in a parent-child dynamic, the children are in control of that relationship, not the parents. How do you get the children to love you? Can I tell you how to teach your children to love you? Ready? It's very easy. The way in which you get your children to love you is by creating a space in that relationship where they can give to you. The more your children give to you, the more they do for you, the more they learn to love you. But if you're not creating a space for them to give to you and all you're doing is giving, you've created a bunch of children that are charity cases. You've never taught them to give. All you've done is taught your children to take. And they don't learn to love through the act of taking, they learn to love through the act of giving. One last question, ready? Who's in control of the relation between you and God? Are you in control of that relationship or is God in control of the relationship?
We are.
You are. Why, Marie? Because God loves you more than you love him. Therefore, you're in control of what that relationship looks like. If you want to go ahead and have this deep relationship where God is able to hear you and connect to you, what are you doing, my friends, to get yourself into a place where you are falling in love, where you are bringing happiness to that relationship? Simcha leads to love. We know this is a beautiful idea, totally worth it just to hear this one concept, which is like this. We say, Mishenichnas Av, mema'atim besimcha. When the month of Av comes in, the lessen your joy. Do whatever you can to go ahead and lessen the joy. This is how we read it. But the Lubavitcher Rebbe does not read like that. He says it, I love this idea. It's going to change the way you think of the month of Av. Ready? He says like this. He says, Mishenichnas Av, mema'atim. When the month of Av comes in, we're mema'et ourselves. We make ourselves small. We lessen ourselves. We lessen our ego. We get ourselves out of the way. Besimcha, with happiness. Do you see the difference there? You see what I just did? It's not mishenichnas Av and ma'atim besimcha, that when the month of Av comes in, we lessen our joy. Put a comma there. When the month of Av comes in, we make ourselves, we're mema'et ourselves. We make ourselves small so that what? With simcha. So we could achieve simcha and happiness. Why does he say that? He comes to the conclusion because of the following. We say like this. He says, mitzvah tamid lihiyot besimcha. We have a positive commandment. I'm pretty sure we're the only religion on planet Earth where there's a mitzvah to be besimcha always. You, my friends, have a positive commandment to be happy. Okay? Positive commandment to focus on the good. Positive commandment to choose to be besimcha. Who's in control of your happiness? Are the circumstances you're in, your emotions? Who's in control of it? The answer is you're in control of your emotions. You're in control of everything that happens in that relationship with you and yourself, you and your mate, you and your friends, and you and God. You, my friends, are in control. So how do you build that love? How do you get there? Okay. So there's a story of a Rabbi Nachman. And Rabbi Nachman tells a story of a prince and a king. And the king had a son who was, he thought he was a chicken. And he was naked, and he would get on his on the floor, and he'd sit on the table, and he'd start clucking around, like cluck, 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 and like pecking, for little seeds on the floor. And this is what the guy did. And the father, the king, couldn't understand, had to get the prince out of this craziness. So, different people came with different ideas, but nothing seemed to work. Eventually, the king is approached by this wise man, and the wise man says, "King, I can do this. Let me have a stab at this kid, and let me show you how I could change him." So the king says, "No problem." The wise man walks into the room with the kid, sees him on the floor, naked, pucking on the floor. The wise man starts taking off all of his clothing. He's all naked. He gets on the floor and starts doing the same thing, clucking around. So the prince looks at him, he's like, "Hey, what are you doing here?" He's like, "What?" He's like, "I'm a chicken too, and I want to spend some time clucking, looking for seeds." He's okay. So 2 days pass, and they're sitting there going cluck, 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 right? And at some point, the wise man goes ahead and puts on a pair of socks. So the prince sees this. He says, "You see, I knew it. I knew you weren't a chicken." He says, "Of course I'm a chicken, but sometimes a chicken can wear socks too." He says, "Oh, okay." And then, he's wearing socks, and they're all both there, clucking, clucking, clucking. And the next day, the wise man puts on a shirt. "Ah!" The prince says, "I got you. You see?" So the wise man says, "No, sometimes a chicken can wear a shirt too." And then the prince puts on a pair of socks, right? And then eventually the wise man puts on a pair of pants, and then the prince puts on a shirt, and then he sits at the table, and then he puts on a pants, and eventually the two of them are sitting at the table, and he says, "Why are we sitting at the table?" And the wise man says, "Sometimes a chicken can sit at the table too," right? And eventually he got the prince to realize that he's not a chicken, but he's really a human being. This is a beautiful idea to understand how to build relationships. It's the small things that we do first. The sock, we got to pull ourselves out. The things that stand in the way of us building our relationships are us. We stand in the way. Ekiev tishmaun, right? You want to go ahead and build this relationship. You got to go ahead and be willing to put in the effort, the energy, the time to invest. Excuse me. To invest in the relationship means putting in the effort, understanding the relationship. It means putting in the time to be b'simcha. You are never going to motivate someone to do anything for you if you're loud, if you're grunchy, if you're grouchy. There was a book written many years ago called "How to Train Your Husband Like a Dog," and it was written by a New York Times columnist who did interviewing different people who were circus trainers, and she wanted to understand, how do you get a monkey to put on rollerblades and jump through a hula hoop on fire? How do you do that? So you do that by only positive reinforcing the monkey. Every small little thing the monkey does, every little tiny movement that you like, you reward him. Here's a banana, here's a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. You owe it the small things. You constantly reward the positive things that you see over and over and over again until you get the full desired behavior, which means if you saw the monkey falling and not doing the right thing, and you say, "You stupid monkey, what are you doing?" You're not going to motivate him. You're not going to get the results you want. The way in which we get people to grow, the way in which we get people to change is through ahava and simcha, through love and happiness. You could have tough love, and that works to a degree, but if there's no simcha, my friends, you're not going to inspire your kids. If there's no simcha, you're not going to inspire your spouses. No simcha, very hard to go ahead and connect up to learn to love a parent. It's up to us to decide how we express our emotion. We choose how we reflect the emotion, not the circumstances around us. You walk away understanding these lessons today. You will walk away with a tremendous amount of depth and happiness, a tremendous amount of life, a fulfilled life with real, deep, meaningful relationships. Don't be afraid to give. Giving, my friends, is loving. Don't be afraid to choose to be b'simcha, even when you're feeling down, even when you're feeling unhappy. You can bring a world of sadness and switch it around into a world of happiness. How do you do it? Small things first. Take the small steps necessary to build a life of happiness, and you'll see yourselves projecting a world of happiness. I just wanted to make mention that today's class was sponsored. It was sponsored and dedicated in loving memory and nishmat Amy Haber. Which is Amy Haber, Gittel Bracha bat Alta Leah, alav shalom, an amazing mother, wife, daughter, and friends during the week of her Azkara, Yahrzeit by Jimmy and Nathan Haber.